80% of men and 50% of women will experience hair loss at some point in their lives. Yet, alopecia, the umbrella term for hair loss, is often misunderstood. Some people lose their hair gradually over time, or others may develop patches overnight. Some have bouts of hair loss followed by regrowth, and others experience irreversible or scarring hair loss. No matter which camp you fall into, it's important to separate fact from fiction. Welcome to the table with Kay Hall.
I want to introduce you to a panel of ladies that I wanted to bring to the table to discuss hair loss today and debunk some of the myths regarding the taboo-ness of hair loss. I am Crystal Hall. I am a trichologist and master stylist located here in Maryland, and I have a clinical spa located in Temple Hills. I've been doing hair as a cosmetologist for over 25 years, and as a trichologist, I've been studying the last 8 to 10 years. Throughout my career, hair loss has not been something that I've not experienced before. Standing behind the chair, I've had the opportunity to work with clients that unfortunately had hair breakage due to split ends or improper hair care practices. And throughout that career, I've noticed that we were trained to send our clients to dermatology. Not that dermatologists does not have a place in this world, because they do. And the conversation that you'll hear today will help open that gateway of how dermatology and trichology can live in the same world to help the patient see restoration results with hair loss. However, sending our clients to dermatology just did not complete the picture for us. It was a generic diagnosis of alopecia, a steroidal-based shampoo, and an ointment cream. And it left the clients always asking for more. Why did they have to use it? How was they supposed to use it? And how are they supposed to use it in conjunction with coming to the salon once every 14 days? It was a puzzle that I needed to answer, and I spent a lot of time trying to figure that out. I spent countless years visiting blogs, reading books, reading articles, uncovering how to work with clients with hair loss. Back in 2008, I had the fortunate experience of attending a conference where a woman was teaching a class on hair loss specifically, and it changed my life. I found myself in a community with a room full of individuals just like myself who stand behind the chair every single day and see clients with hair loss, and we didn't have any definitive answers to give them. She opened a gateway for me to explore that information even further and propel my career into helping women who needed help from me, from behind the chair. After years of studies and leveling up with post-studies, I finally became a trichologist. I learned how to integrate the practice of hair and scalp disorders, hair loss and restoration, and hair replacement into a full-fledged cosmetology hairstyling environment. Today, I bring that world to you. We'll be interviewing 5 women with different ages, different forms of hair loss from different backgrounds. We will uncover their each journey on how hair loss has affected them, and we will also talk about their consultation process, treatment process, and post-process. I hope that you hold every single woman on camera today in the highest light as this film travels through social media. They were so transparent and so brave to sit with me here today. I ask that you continue to push the conversation on hair loss and continue to put pressure on those that you want to advocate for your health. Hi, good afternoon. How are you doing today?
Wonderful.
Good. Thank you all for joining me. This is my first ever roundtable with Kay Hall. I'm really excited to have you here today. Let's start off by some introductions. Let me get your name, city and state, and if you don't mind sharing your age.
I can
I'm
go
start
first.
with you.
Okay. My name is Alexis Clark. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, and I am 33 years old.
Okay.
I'm Rakina Dow, and I am from Fort Washington, Maryland, and I'm 47 years old.
I am Colleen Basil. I am from Washington, D.C., and I am 51 years old.
And I am Hope Murray. I'm from Alexandria, Virginia, and I'm 50 years old.
I'm Kim Rennick. I'm from Waldorf, Maryland, and I'm 57 years old.
And you all know me personally because we work together, but for our viewers, my name is Crystal Hall, and I'm a certified trichologist and master stylist here in the state of Maryland, and I have a clinical spa in Temple Hills. Today, we want to talk about hair loss. I want to debunk some of the myths surrounding hair loss, how to be an advocate for yourself, and making the connection. We're going to touch along your journey, your consultation process, working with me personally, and how you walked on that journey. And if you're continuing in that journey, what are you experiencing? Is everyone okay with that topic today?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So, Ms. Colleen, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
Okay. Give our viewers a short history of your hair loss.
So when I started with you in 2020, so maybe 3 to 4 years prior, I noticed that my edges were thinning.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I thought it was because I was getting a lot of heat on it. So, I'm telling the stylist, I just want to do sets. I don't want any more heat on my hair. And then, as time went on, I noticed that there was no improvement, right? The hair was still thinning. And so now I'm talking to the stylist about my thinning edges. And she didn't have much to offer. She did share some of the products that her clients were using. And of course, I went off and I started buying all of those products, and they still weren't working.
Okay.
And so eventually I left the stylist because I knew that in terms of hair maintenance, that just wasn't her thing. And so I ended up going back to a couple of other stylists that I knew were good with maintaining your hair.
Mm-hmm.
And so just fast forward, I ended up going back to Martrice.
Yes.
And Martrice is a mutual friend.
Yes.
And I was one day chatting with Martrice about my thinning edges. And she said, "Oh, I got someone for you." And she referred me to Crystal.
Love referrals.
And so that was in 2020, the summer of 2020.
All right, so bring me up to that point. Going through that journey, finding out about the autoimmune and just some of the challenges that you face with hair loss.
Wow. Okay. So in November of 2021, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune illness. They have not been able to put me in any category, so they can't say I have lupus or Sjogren's or some other type of autoimmune disease. I have undifferentiated connective tissue disorder because I have symptoms that appear in any one of those other autoimmune disease categories, lupus or Sjogren's or what have you. And I struggled with that, right? I was in denial. How could I be healthy up until this point? And then one day I wake up and I have an autoimmune illness. So that was November of 2021. They did prescribe some medicine and I refused to take it because I'm thinking, I'm going to pray this away. My body's going to naturally heal. And it did not. So in February of 2022, I started taking Platinum. And I'm just going to fast forward. So maybe a couple of months after that, I started to see some side effects. My skin started darkening and I started losing my hair. It started shedding. In addition to that, I think that's when you started noticing these other patches in my hair. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm not ready for this.
Okay.
And so over the summer of 2022, I'm telling Crystal, my hair's shedding. And eventually I bought her tissue with my hair in it because it started to shed even more. I'm like, I got to tell someone this because I'm crying, I'm emotional, I don't really know what to do, I'm exhausted and I'm tired. Like, I don't want to do this. And I'm going to fast forward again. Last, November, December, I wanted to cut my hair. I'm like, Crystal, I can't do it. I can't continue on this emotional journey because every day I'm combing my hair and it's falling out and it's just weighing on me. So I want it to be gone. And Crystal wasn't ready to cut my hair.
No, absolutely not.
She wasn't ready to cut it. I went to Florida in December for about a week. And I noticed during that time period, my hair didn't shed as much. So now I'm thinking, okay, maybe, I'm getting a reprieve, I'm turning a corner, something is going on here. And so fast forward again to now, I have pretty much minimal shedding.
Yes.
And so I'm thinking maybe my body is now adjusted to the medicine. Definitely not the autoimmune illness, but it's adjusting to the medicine. And so maybe that's why the hair isn't shedding as much. And so that's where I am today.
Well, thank you for sharing. Kina, you've been like one of my longest clients that I've had. And you actually have not began or finished a treatment plan with me, but you have had active hair loss intermittently throughout our 20-year tenure. So can you talk to us or speak on that for us, please?
Sure. Well, as you said, I came to you 20 years ago, almost 20. Well, yeah, 20 years ago, because Imani is 20. So I measure that. My daughter is 20. But pretty healthy hair coming to you in the beginning, utilizing relaxers and every now and again coloring. But then my hair loss started, my journey has been almost 10 years. And through this journey, it started loss of my father. I noticed my stress points. And when my father passed, I noticed my temples then really bad. And then we kind of got that under control. And then my crown that's my weak spot. And we tried the clip-ons through the years, still doing the relaxer. And of course, you encourage that I kind of, back off the relaxers. But we've done consultations. I've done several consultations with you. And I learned so much from you.
She's in touch with the trichology aspect. I appreciate her knowledge. I appreciate her sharing her knowledge. Even as as a hairstylist, we may get into a conversation. I may say, I'm feeling a little inflammation here. Maybe I might need to do a consultation. So there I can, make an appointment to come back for her trichology expertise.
I'm now natural. It'll be 2 years next month. No relaxers. I never thought I could do that. I've been with some type of chemical since 12 years old. So I did not know how to manage it. One day going through the transition process, I called Crystal and I said, I'm gonna jump. And Crystal's like, what? I said, I gotta put a perm in my hair. I can't do this. And she's like, no, just come in, make an appointment and come in and I'll do something. And ever since then, so we cut all the perm out finally. And so it's all natural now. But I learned so much about how our emotions and things that we go through in life. I went through a pretty bad, rough divorce. And that's when those are my triggers. I noticed that the going through the divorce, we had got to close in a little bit, the spot. But then with divorce, it started spreading again. And then I at an early age, I had a hysterectomy, so the medication started me over again, that same spot. But now, and of course, I tried the Awaken product at home, and it's such a really nice product. The at-home care, in between when I can't get to you. But emotions, stress, I encourage all, we all need to minimize as much as we can. Of course, we have families, we have, people that we love and we care for. So, stress is going to be there, but, learning how to meditate or take a walk or, something to minimize as much as possible. And then nutrition, when we did the hair follicle lab test, it revealed how malnourished I was. I was like, wait a minute. So it revealed that I was dehydrated, which I drink a lot of water. But there's other ways to intake water. And minerals, vitamins and minerals, magnesium. I was deficient in magnesium. And I'm like, okay. So now I'm on a regimen, and I intake the supplements every day, including my multivitamins. And my hair is like just...
Your hair is thriving today. And it's so crazy because people would look at you and be like, you don't have any hair loss. Look at you, and they would not detect, and not unless you pointed out or to tell them, right? They wouldn't know. But you, Miss Kim, people automatically know because you are wearing your hair or your bald head very loud and proud. You look amazing and beautiful. Your skin is just glowing today.
Thank you.
So explain to us your journey. You had a very long journey with the hair loss in general, scarring, alopecia to be more specific. And when we initially met, you came in as a hair replacement client, but walk us up to that journey before we met and just how you dealt with hair loss previously.
I noticed that my hair was coming out. It started like in the shape of a dime approximately 28 years ago after the birth of my son. There's several different types of alopecia. I'm more familiar with alopecia totalis only because I have family members that has experienced alopecia totalis from a very young age to where they have no hair follicles at all. I experienced alopecia, scarred alopecia, which is like a form of alopecia areata at a very young age. And I didn't even realize that I had alopecia until I did the research on some of my family members who had already experienced alopecia totalis. And that's when I found out mine isn't alopecia totalis, but it's actually scarred alopecia, which is like a form of alopecia areata. And prior to that, my hair was always thick. My hair was very thick, like sheep's wool. When I was younger, probably in my mid-teens, I started perming my hair with 2 boxes at one time. So I did that for years, not realizing that that was damaging the follicles of my hair. As I got older, after the birth of my son, fast forward, when I noticed the shedding of that dime size in the crown of my head, I really didn't pay any attention to it. I had so much hair to cover it up, I just didn't pay any attention to it. The more that I would do my hair in regards to braids and weaves, I just didn't pay any attention to the constant shedding of my hair. When I would take braids out or take the weaves out, a lot of my hair would come out with that, but I was told that that was new growth. So I continued on with not even paying any more attention to the loss of my hair. And I was also saving my hair. My grandmother used to tell us not to throw our hair away, that the birds would get to it. So we would save our hair. And that was a tradition that I did, not realizing that this is a lot of hair that I am saving, to the point where I would actually put my hair in Ziploc food bags until I shared it with my mother and showed to her the bags of hair that I was saving. My mother realized this isn't normal. Something's going on. And she too brought it to my attention that it was probably in a deficiency in my immune system. But again, I'm not paying attention to it because I still got a lot of hair. And my hair was lengthy, it was thick. It was just shedding very, very slowly. Fast forward, I started paying attention to more patches that I was realizing I was receiving. The crown was getting bigger. The loss of hair was actually spreading. I decided to go to a dermatologist. The dermatologist told me that I could receive cortisone shots and it would bring the follicles back. But I'm holistic, so I wasn't trying to do cortisone shots or have any shots in the scalp of my head. Fast forward, as I got older, my hair is really evident that it's coming out more and more and more. My hairstylist would continue to do the braids and the weaves with not really giving me anything to fix the problem with my scalp. It was really just masking the problem, basically. And as long as I had somebody's hair to wear, I really didn't mind it. So I just continued on with ignoring it, so to speak. When I decided to go get a second opinion and go to another dermatologist, he was honest enough as soon as he saw my scalp and told me that it was scarred alopecia, that it was not going, my follicles was not going to grow back. And he did give me an option that I could get the cortisone shots or I could just deal with it. And I chose to just deal with it and appreciated the honesty. As I got older, my hair would continue to grow, but it was shedding more. My scalp, the crown of my head was completely bald, but I wanted to wear my own hair. I went online and did a survey. I asked people if they knew of anyone who specialized in hair replacement, and someone referred me to Crystal. I didn't know anything about a trichologist until I was actually referred to a hairstylist, and I found out later on that she's actually a trichologist, which is Crystal. And when I did the research in regards to what the differences were, and with Crystal explaining to me the differences as well, I was extremely intrigued because I had no idea that trichologists even existed. And when I first went to Crystal, it was like an epiphany for me, like, wow, this is something totally different than from what I'd experienced with my previous hairstylist as well as dermatologists. And Crystal just took me under her wing and just pretty much told me, I got you. And from that point forward, she created a toupee, so to speak, to blend in with the rest of my hair on the sides and in the back. And it was amazing for me because it sincerely looked like my hair. And I happened to go to a family function last year where I hadn't seen some of my family members in probably two to 3 years due to COVID. And so many people were so amazed as to really believing that it was my hair. And they was saying to me, like, I can't believe your hair grew back. What did you do? Some people I did tell that it was a toupee, and others I just let them believe that it was really my hair.
Do you mind if I share a couple of your pictures with our panelists?
No, not at all.
Okay. I loved how open Kim was about her process. You can see how large her area was and how I was able to create and craft a piece for her.
Wow.
They gave her different opportunities of styling that was not available to you prior to you coming in, right?
Yes.
And that was such a fun process. How did you feel? Did you feel that I supported you in that initial consultation?
Yes.
Because I know that hair loss is so personal and also very emotional.
Wow.
But I also want to convey that I'm meeting the needs of the client when they're coming in. And did you feel that your needs were met? Did you feel that you were being heard at that time?
Not only did I feel that I was being heard, but one thing that I do realize, which is very, very, very important, you don't know what to ask. If you don't know what to ask, you won't ask it. Crystal was not only supportive through the journey for me, even though it was a very short journey, but she took the time to dive deep into explaining to me exactly what scarred alopecia was. Not that the dermatologist prior did not, but she dove deeper. She actually took pictures of my scalp, like very, very close microscopic pictures of my scalp to show me what was going on, why the follicles wouldn't grow back, where the inflammation was coming from. I hadn't had that experience before. And through that experience, she was able to tell me the next steps going forward in regards to what she could do. When we talked about the replacement, the hair replacement, she showed me what it would look like, the texture of the hair, the size of the hair. She took measurements of the area on top of my head to make sure that when we go through this process, we're going to do this right. And it really was an experience for me. It was very new for me. I've heard about toupees, I've heard about hair transplants. This wasn't a hair transplant, but it was like one. And when the process was done, I was astonished. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. This is really my hair that's blended in that made me feel like it was really my hair. So it was something that I wanted. I wanted to be able to wear my hair and be proud of it. But as time went on, as I got older, which was a short process with Crystal, I made the decision that I had accepted that my hair wasn't going to grow back. Mm-hmm. So the transformation of me internally with knowing I can just go ahead and cut it off. I'd been bald twice prior in my life, probably my late 30s, my mid 40s. But at that time, that was with the understanding that my hair was going to grow back evenly. This time, I knew it's not coming back. So just take it all off. You've had it. It served you well. And that's when that came to the decision. Crystal, just chop it all off.
Wow.
That's where we ended.
Well, thank you for your courage. I truly appreciate it. And I do want to double back on that at a later time because I do want to dig a little bit more into the final chapter of that hair journey that you went through. But Alexis, you're the youngest at the table today, and you're actually one of the youngest clients I think that I've serviced in hair loss.
Okay.
So let's talk about that process because you did a remote consultation first.
I did. We were in COVID times.
We were in COVID times. You did a remote consultation. Everything was by Zoom. Bring us up to speed with your hair loss and give us a glimpse of your remote consultation and how you felt about that.
Okay, so I started noticing hair loss probably 2019. It was a stressful time in my life. I think I had just lost my job and I was just going to my hairdresser normal and she kept on saying, I'm seeing some breakage, but my hair has always been long and thick. So I was like, it'll grow back, it's fine. No big deal, just braid it down, protective styles, I'm doing the right thing. And then one day I went in her chair and she was like, oh my God. And I'm like, what? She was like, it really broke off. And I'm like, okay, we've been doing this. Just, braid it down. And she was like, no, it's to the point where I can't grip it. I can't braid it. And so then I cried. And I was like, oh my God.
A typical response.
And I'm a Pisces. So I cry a lot. So I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what's happening. And so then I just happened to be texting one of my friends and she was like, oh, my cousin's a hairstylist. Go see her. So I went to see her. Nice woman. And she was like, okay, I think you have alopecia. I think you should go see a dermatologist. And, we figured out a style that could mask it. And then I did go see a dermatologist and they were like, okay, you have alopecia, 50-50 chance your hair will grow back. We don't know, but we can give you shots in your head, steroid shots. And I was like, okay, whatever to get my hair to grow back. And then we were doing that for a couple of months and it was just up and down. Like it would grow and I'd be like, okay, I'm getting a handle on it. And then all of a sudden it would break off and I would be like, I don't know what's happening. And then COVID hit. And so, of course, everybody shut down. So I couldn't go see that particular hairdresser to get, those treatments that I was getting or any type of styling. So it was just me and my hair and it freaked out. And I'm like, this really sucks. So I just went to Google and I was like, hairstylist, alopecia near me. And then that's when I found Crystal. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna fill out the form.
To Google
And so, I filled out a form. I think it was like a booking fee. I was like, okay, I'm serious. I'm gonna figure this out. And so, me and Crystal, had our online consultation. Before that, she was like, send me a few pictures. And I was like, here you go. So, what are you thinking though? Like, what do I have? Like, will my hair grow back? What can you do for me? She was like, okay, hold on. Let's do this consultation. We're gonna have to get some blood work done. Eventually, we're gonna have to meet in person so I can really see it and feel it, and then I'll be able to better answer your questions after the consultation.
Crystal, I said it to her before, but I would love to say it here. She's definitely more than a hairstylist. That trichologist position is like a combo of a doctor and a hairstylist. And even like with the consultation, she was like, we're in this together. And we've been on this journey over a year now, and we're still in it together.
So during the process, I think mostly everyone here has seen a dermatologist at some point, correct?
Right.
What's the difference for you? Understanding working with me or being in the clinic, not saying that dermatologists do not have a lane, because this is not a bash dermatology or bash medicine. Medicine is so important, and I want to make that conversation inclusive into this dialogue. There is a place for it because 3 people at the table have CCCA type of hair loss, which would be yourself, Alexa, you, Keena, and you, Hope. And when you deal with inflammatory type of hair loss, and it can become scarring, like Kim had experienced with her hair loss, dermatology is needed because I'm not a physician. I cannot suppress inflammation and make the follicles, that burning and tingling sensation that you're feeling and that uncomfortableness. I can't remedy that by myself. So having a dermatologist in the loop is beneficial. Hope, you're the newest member of the team. Yay. You joined us in 2022. Welcome to the table. Talked about your hair journey and working with a dermatologist.
So I've never been one of those people that have like long, flowing, thick hair. Got over that. That's just not my hair, right? But then I started to have a tender spot right in the crown of my head. And I was like, after it didn't go away, I'm like, what is that? And to a dermatologist, and she says, oh, you need a cortisone shot. And I'm like, whoa, why? So she explained there's inflammation, the follicles are inflamed, and the shot worked, right? The shot worked, went in for a series. Fast forward, I started seeing it more and more, right? The inflammation, the tingling, the burning sensation, I was feeling it more and more. And my previous stylist, she said, your hair is starting to thin. And I said, okay, well, what do we do? And she says, well, have you been to a dermatologist? And I said, yeah, I need to go back. And I went back, and by now it's just not that little spot. It's growing. And my dermatologist actually used the term. She's like, oh, your scalp is angry. Right? That's not what you want to hear when you go to a dermatologist. So she says, we need to really be a little.
You remember that?
I do.
Yes.
I do.
So that would be the picture on the left.
Yeah.
That was her angry scalp.
This was my angry scalp, right in the crown. So I started with a series of, I think I was going every 2 weeks. The challenge is that my stylist at the time, who I don't blame her, I think she did what she knew how to do, right? My dermatologist, we went through blood work. We did a hair sample where they took a couple of strands and sent that to the lab. We actually did a scalp biopsy as well. Okay. Because she needed to confirm what her eyes were seeing through the lab work, right? And came back, and as Crystal said, CCNA. That was the official prognosis. And she had a serious conversation. She said, you really need to stop the chemicals. You have to stop relaxing your hair.
Well, the transition is still ongoing. I still have a little perm on the ends of my hair. Crystal was great with explaining and giving me tips on how to maintain and that sort of thing. I'm not at the point where I'm totally 100% comfortable on maintaining it on my own because I had relaxed hair for so long. It's hard for me to kind of transition myself into caring for 100% natural hair. But I'm getting there with the help of Crystal. She's giving me tips on products to use when we're styling, different tips on and techniques for styling as well.
you're not gonna see any progress. I can do what I'm gonna do, but if you're going back and you're, processing your hair, it's canceling it out, right? So I go back and I tell my stylist at the time, who struggled with that, even though it was from a medical professional, like, I need to stop, relaxing my hair. This is what I've done. I've had, a scalp biopsy. I've had, take hair out of my head and blood work. And she says, I don't know. I think if we apply it correctly, it's gonna work. And it was like, it was hard for me, right? Because I've been going to her for 20 plus years. She was styling my mom's hair, other family members' hair. Like we were essentially like family, right? So I continued to go, even though in the pit of my stomach, I'm like, this isn't right. So we stopped relaxing that area, right? That was kind of the happy medium, right? And it still wasn't working. It was like, I'm going to the dermatologist. I would see a little bit of growth, a little bit of improvement. Then we come back and relax it, right? So at one point I said, I think it was the last relaxer I received, which was about maybe March, April last year. And I came home and I looked in the mirror and I just saw how thin my hair was. I was with the mirror and looking, and it would just, at that moment I said, I cannot do this anymore. Serendipitously, she was transitioning out of hairstyling. She was, going to retire. She was doing some other things. And I was like, okay, this is a good time for me to transition. I did the Google search. Yay! Shout out. I'd heard of trichology. I'd never been to a trichologist, but I'd heard of it. So I actually found Crystal and I found another person. And I'll tell you the reason that I selected Crystal to have that, at least that initial consultation was the other person. There was a drastic difference in the level of professionalism.
Oh, wow.
And I don't think I ever told you this.
Did not.
I never told you this.
This is the first time I'm hearing this.
Right. So I had talked to someone else and it was like night and day between you and this other person. Wow. I shared with the ladies before we started, she was requesting monies up front in like a Zelle app, right? Okay. And there was no explanation until like, well, when I see you, we'll figure it out. It could be more. I don't know. When I talked to you, it was, okay, well, let's see what's going on. Here's, the options that I have, the cost up front of these options and what we can do. And I even remember saying, well, at that point, I was still on the line about relaxing. And I said, well, this particular brand of relaxer typically works better for me. And you said, let's wait and see what's going on with your hair before we talk about relaxing. And I was like, okay. So it was night and day. Stopped relaxing. That's one of the first things you told me. I sent you the pictures. And during our consultation, you had wrote out what you thought it was, which is what the dermatologist said. Yes. And it clicked for me. I was like, okay, I think she knows what she's doing. And you said you have to transition out of this relaxer. So it was checking a lot of boxes for me because I had already had all of this testing with the dermatologist. I had already, done some research on my own. And I would say before we even started the actual treatment plan that you for me, I don't know if you remember, we started seeing growth because I sat in your chair one day and you were like, you got some growth going on back here. Have you looked at this? And then after the treatment was when we really started to see a
just kicked into full gear.
Full gear. So I so appreciate that.
Very good. Thank you for that. I appreciate all of the positive testimony and positive energy from everyone. Those that have the CCCA diagnosis, do you actually know what it is? Did your dermatologist ever explain it to you?
I was going to ask you, what does this stand for? A lot of people are so
confused. So it's the acronym for Central Centrifugal Psychiatrical Alopecia. And it's an inflammatory disease of the hair follicle. I think a lot of women have it, and it gets exasperated with overprocessing of chemicals. Not just relaxers, hair color as well, tension, pulling, too many braiding experiences, weaving hair experiences. That pulling can make that area kind of ignite like a wildfire. And once it's on, that wildfire, they make friends. And those friends, they start to have phone calls and they make connections. And before you know it, you have an entire area that can be affected by that. A lot of the symptoms that are associated with that is going to be that tenderness that you were feeling, that your follicle is sore. Some have like a radiating heat temperature. You can touch it with
just your fingertip and you can feel it. And typically, you know, we haven't been in treatment together, but you've been to me long enough that you know what the symptoms are. And you'll call me and you'll say, my scalp is hot. And you know what that means for you, right? So let's talk about your story here.
Okay.
Because you've also had a very interesting case. CCCA, there was some other underlining issues in the beginning with vitamin imbalances pertaining to vitamin D and B12. We had made some positive success, and then we had a setback, and then we got back on track. So let's talk about that journey, if you don't mind sharing.
No, of course. When I first started seeing Crystal, she demanded, you know, got my blood work done, saw my levels, was like, okay, this is low. We're going to put you on this hair vitamin regimen. I'm going to need you to do this at home when you're not seeing me. I was like, whatever it takes, got to get my hair back. I want my hair back. So we're doing it. Everything's great. Every other week, I'm in her chair. Oh, great, great, great. And then I sit down one day and it's like, what happened? I'm like, what do you mean what happened? That's when I learned the importance of triggers. Earlier, a couple weeks ago, I had gotten into a really bad argument with my boyfriend. And I guess internally, it really stressed me out. And I didn't realize how bad the stress was till I sat down in Crystal's chair and she was like, what happened? So I was like, okay, we know what we have to do. We're just going to get back in it. I was like, okay, great. On the journey again. We're doing it, progress. And then November comes around and I'm like, Crystal, I think it's breaking off again. You know, you kind of become obsessed with it almost. Like I'm in the mirror looking, like comparing pictures from months ago. And I'm like, no, it's breaking off. And she's like, a little bit, but I don't see the scalp. You know, we're going to continue to do our thing. And then I went back, I think in 2 weeks, she's like, okay, I see it now. What are you doing? And I was like, oh, well, I found this old dermal roller that I used to use with my other hairdresser. So I just bought that back. She was like, why? She was like, with your type of alopecia, you can't do that. You know, you have to call me before you just do stuff. And I'm like, okay, I throw it away. As soon as I get home, it's gone. That's nothing. So then a couple weeks, I'm back in her chair and she's like, something's going on. Something's going on. You need to go back to get some blood work done. I'm like, okay. But, you know, I'm busy. I work, you know, I have a life. So my dermatologist, she's good, though. They have an app. So I just text the app and was like, hey, I need a blood work order done. Make sure, you know, vitamin D is in there. So I went, got my blood work done. And then we look at the results and she's like, yeah, it's your vitamin D. It's drastically low. And, you know, I was like, okay, well, here's some Amazon vitamins I found. I'm going to order them right now. She was like, pause. let me do some research. And so she texted me the link. It was like, this is what you need to order. And I was like, okay. And she was like, somehow you know the owner of the company. Yes. So she was like, I talked to the owner. We talked about your levels. They were like, this is actually the dosage you need to take for everything that you have going on. And so we're back in the journey again.
And simultaneously, you went from hair restoration to hair replacement.
Yep.
So you are actually wearing a replacement unit today.
I am.
Because we did have such a setback through the holiday season. I wanted an intermedium to make her feel confident about walking out of the house and going to events. So I was so pleased at how everything turned out this week. It looks very natural.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you were open to the idea. Thank you very much.
Whatever ideas you have, I'm willing to try it.
Do you mind if I share some of your pictures of Alexa's journey? And forgive me, some of the dates are cut off on her photos. But she's had a journey as well. And realizing how much health and balance plays into hair loss. How many actually knew that was a thing? Did y'all ever really make the connection of health being a part of hair health and hair growth?
I did not.
No.
Did not.
Not until you explained it to me.
I did not as much. because what I left off earlier is I experienced a vitamin D deficiency as well. That was before the big issue came. It was just a little bit of thinning, and I started to take the vitamin D. I actually had a prescription because it was so low. At the time, my doctor said, I typically wait and see what happens, but yours is so low, we need to get you back up. And I saw a difference there. And then maybe a year later, that's when I started to have the inflammation. So, yeah.
I knew about the health could play a part in hair loss from the dermatologist when I went to visit with the dermatologist. But again, that was so many years ago. I was not caught up to speed mentally with putting the two together and making a severe change or severe difference in making sure that my health was where it was supposed to be. And I've always had vitamin D deficiency. So I never connected the dots in regards to the vitamin D hair loss or any of that. So I will honestly say that for me, it was just a matter of ignorance and just not being more in tune to my health and wellness when I was first told about it. And then Crystal, she shared more insight, even that much more when I started visiting with Crystal, to where now, fast forward, I'm much older, I'm taking things in more, I'm paying more attention to my health, and I'm being more aware, consciously in regards to my intake, my diet, all things of that nature, exercise, everything. They all play a part, it all works together.
If I can just circle back.
Look. Go ahead, Ms. Collins.
Because you made a comment about me going vegan.
Yes.
And I didn't really dive into that. And so it's when I was diagnosed with the autoimmune illness, I'm thinking I'm going to cut all this stuff out of my diet again.
And what was the first thing I told you?
It's going to heal me. I don't know if I told you initially that I was doing that, but at some point we had the conversation.
Yeah.
And so she's like, well, how are you going to get this B12 and B7 and all this? Well, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. And I wasn't reading the labels of the foods that I was eating. So it's like, okay, I got to go start reading. So I got to get B12. How am I going to get this? And so I knew someone that was vegan. So I'm like, well, how are you getting these things? They couldn't answer it. It doesn't even matter. I got to start reading, the labels. And I still wasn't getting enough of what I needed. Didn't know it at the time, but over time, we realized that. And I'm going to fast forward at some point.
Yes.
I started taking some herbal B supplements and I had some thinning spots. And then the hair started to regrow. And Krista was like, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I started taking the supplements. I started putting fish and eggs and, back into my diet.
This was the fastest 2-week turnaround I had ever witnessed in my career.
Wow, 2 weeks.
Wow.
From simply B supplements.
Wow.
Now, it did not benefit some other challenges that were in the mix in regards to your autoimmune.
Yes.
But when it came to replacing what the body needed to grow hair, it was that simple. And as a practitioner who was once just a cosmetologist by trade, I've seen a lot of hair loss over the years, long before I was a trichologist. And we get nervous from behind the chair because we want to tell you that you're losing hair, but we don't want that pointed back to us. Like, oh, it's your fault. Why is my hair falling out? What did you do wrong? We are afraid to have that conversation. But going through this journey and becoming a trichologist and understanding that it's more to the picture. If I only see you once every 14 or 21 days, there is more to the picture that we need to uncover and find out. And understanding the body and the science in the body is a very important key to the picture.
One, I just want to share one of the one conversation you and I had before we discovered that I was deficient somewhere. You said to me, you're deficient somewhere. We need to start there and find out, where you are. And we did the tests, and then I went to my doctor, and you said, get your blood work done so we can compare and make sure that what we're reading from the lab work it coincides, it makes sense. And one of the things that you said that day, you said when you're deficient in, like, your hair and your nails are the first things that your organs are going to pull from. So if your hair stops growing, it's because it's pulling for something else that's more important to your survival and, your well-being. So and sure enough, I was deficient in so many things. So, but that was one of the key things that, like, helped me put the pieces together, like how important. And I never, being so young, I'm like, I'm fine. Take a vitamin B, multivitamin, and I'm fine. But yeah, when you put that picture in that way, and explain that, our nails and our hair is the first thing that will go. Because it's not a necessity, and but it's that's who we are. It is
to our ego and everyone, including myself at this table.
Yeah.
It's a vanity
Yes.
moment, right? But survival for your system, your body,
Mm-hmm.
your organs are going to pull from your hair follicles first and get all the supplies that they need: blood supply, oxygen supply, nutrient supply, to replenish the remainder of your body before it will worry about your hair follicles. So regular maintenance, regular blood work, I think that should be, imperative. It's an important part of the picture, not just for hair health, but I think for overall body wellness. Everyone should know their numbers and know what's optimal for you. I love that you're so in tune with your body, going through your autoimmune and all your physicians and functional health medicine doctors. You're being a real advocate for yourself. So can you talk about your advocacy and how you've built your team around you to help you through this?
Yeah, it's been a journey, and I've fired some doctors along the way. I think what I am realizing, because I have so much going on, and my doctors are kind of scattered. The rheumatologist is here, the neurologist is here, the other doctor is here. I need my doctors to be under one umbrella, right? Because I'm having to remember all this information, tell you about it, or to get this test from this doctor to this doctor. And it's overwhelming. So I'm in the process of trying to find really good doctors that fall under this one umbrella. But just in terms of my advocacy, and I would use I won't name it. So one of my doctors, right? So in October, I got COVID in September of 2022. And in October of 2022, I don't know what was going on with me physically. I was having flare-ups every day. And then I started having tingling and numbness on the left side of my body. There was a lot going on in the left side of my head. I couldn't even describe it. I was telling Chris, I got all this stuff going on. I don't really know what it is. And, one night I was horrified. I'm thinking, I'm going to die tonight. It was just, my head just felt like it was going to explode. In any event, I ended up going to the rheumatologist, and I'm telling her, everything. And, she ultimately did an x-ray, and she says, well, you have this, maybe, something going on with your nerve, your pinched nerve. Okay, sounds great. And she wants me to do physical therapy. Okay, so I go sign up for physical therapy. But something just still didn't feel right. I have this activity going on in my head. You're the rheumatologist, you're not the neurologist, you're not the head doctor. So you know what? I'm going to see the neurologist. And I went to see the neurologist. And so just fast forward, what came out of that appointment was long COVID symptoms. Because immediately when I told her, I forgot to tell you, I had COVID in September, she connected the dots, which the rheumatologist didn't, but you're not the head doctor. In addition to that, I started having these heart palpitations. So at night, my heart is racing. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So where am I going next? I'm going to see the cardiologist. So, you have to be your own advocate. I hear what you're saying, but I'm going to the doctor that specializes in whatever is going on with me, because everyone's looking through a different lens.
Right. Yes. And you touched on COVID hair loss, which is really big. I'm not sure if you have coworkers or friends that have experienced it or even know that they've experienced it. But unfortunately, some people who have contracted COVID-19 have had lasting side effects from catching the illness. Hair loss has been one of them. I've seen a lot of COVID-related hair loss within the last 2 years. But congratulations for putting pressure on your physicians to work on your behalf to get you closer to the results and answers that you need. Yeah, very good. Good. Any questions? Does anybody want to ask anyone anything on the panel about anyone's case or journey?
I have questions, but I don't know if you're going to get to it in your questions, though.
Go for it. Let's see.
Miss Kim, just the scarring alopecia, was that like hard for you to accept? Like, okay, I'm going to shave on my hair and I'm just going to own it?
It wasn't hard for me to shave my head. It was hard for me to wrap my head around what was going on with my head. I shaved my head twice in my late 30s and in my mid 40s with the understanding that I'll just let it grow back and it'll all grow back evenly. But when it didn't, that was when it was hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that it wasn't coming back. And knowing that I used to, once upon a time, have a head full of hair with a perm and without a perm.
2 perms at times.
Yes. So for me to just make the decision, I'll really be honest here. It wasn't until I saw Jada Pinkett.
I was about to bring that up.
It wasn't until I saw Jada Pinkett. And I will say this, Jada Pinkett has been one of my long-lasting favorite visions on television, with her head full of hair, and then to see her with a shaved head. And it was prior to me seeing, I think her name is Sean, the white entertainer. She actually bald her head. I think her name is Sean something. I can't remember her full name right now, but she inspired me years ago Chanel Condon. Thank you. Yes. She inspired me years ago in my early 30s. And that was just because I liked her shaved head. So, but that was also with me understanding that my hair would grow back evenly. When I saw Jada Pinkett, I had not heard that Jada Pinkett was dealing with alopecia. And that sparked me to say, you know what, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to cut it all off.
That struck a chord in the whole community. I definitely, I do not have alopecia, but I service a lot of women with alopecia. And even the night of, I felt so offended that someone who brought the good hair, bad hair movie to the table to discuss, you know, why Black women are relaxing their hair, why can't you be natural, was the same exact person to take shots at someone who was suffering from alopecia. So when I got the call from you, I was not surprised, but I wanted to make sure that your heart and your mind had lined up with the physical action. And it wasn't like I lost a client because you weren't a hair replacement client anymore. But I felt like that moment that we cut your hair, it was so momentous for us both, because I think that finally those two worlds had lined up for you. And you were ready. You were absolutely ready.
I was definitely ready for so many reasons. I think for me, because I'd been on a spiritual journey since my mother transitioned. This year will be 9 years. My spiritual journey consisted of so many things for me. And one of the many things that I wanted to do was to honor my mother in regards to all the things that she'd asked of me to do while she was living. One of those things that she always asked of me to do was to wear my hair. And when I came to Crystal, I told Crystal, It's just on the sides and in the back, but I want to wear my hair. When Crystal gave me that, I felt like that was one of the things that I can mark off my list of honoring my mom. So that transition for me, and it was only a short period of time, I think 6 months I'd been with Crystal, that she gave me that. So for me to transition further was me understanding my hair served me well.
Great. Thank you.
I have a question. Alopecia, is it genetic? Is this something that we could do to prevent it? Has it been, discovered that it's the chemicals is it strictly that? Can it be genetic or
So I did not prep y'all. That was not a softball question. So there are over 100 different types of alopecia that anyone can experience. There are going to be some that has some genetic traits to it that can be changed the same way if you are predisposed to high blood pressure just because your mom or your dad had high blood pressure or high cholesterol. Does that mean that you're automatically going to get it? Or are there things that you could potentially do in your life, in your regimen, your diet, your care routine that could alter and shift your predisposition, right? So correct. There are some alopecias that you won't be able to do anything about. Some people are born with certain alopecias. And then there are others that you do have control over them. The key is finding out which one you have and how much control can you get over it, right? I love your case because you started with me in March and you finished a successful plan, but you are still continuing the success. And I think that's because you have kind of really understood your picture and understood that I will never be able to go back to relaxers. That's one of the things I will not be able to do. You will have to keep an eye on your vitamin D levels and making sure that you hold your doctors accountable for that. But talk about your process from beginning to end. Let's talk about the 12-week structure. If you enjoyed it, how did you feel about it? And your post-care treatment after I released you from treatment.
So the 12 weeks, one thing I appreciated was you explaining throughout, what to expect, what's going to happen, and laying that out. And then also explaining to me, your plan is for you, right? So know that it's structured specifically for you and your hair loss type and what's going on. So once I traveled for work a bit. So once I was able to find a block of time where, travel wasn't going to interfere because I was in it. And I said, Crystal, once I start, I want to start and not have, anything come up where we're going to have setbacks or I'm not going to be able to come in. And I think we were pretty good. I might have had one or two reschedules, but, we were on it for the 12 weeks. So that's when I really saw it really kind of take up a notch. Like we saw a little bit of growth from the start, but then once we really did that with all the different treatments and you explaining to me, what we were going to do and having in the beginning, remember I was going home and I was washing in between. So I think I had to wash my hair once a week, like in between. I was coming once a week, but then in between I was washing. And as that relaxer was starting to grow out, it was getting challenging for me.
You were going to jump too. You were going to jump.
And it's summertime, right? I've been relaxing my hair since I was, 16, 17. Now here I am knocking on 50's door, and I don't know how to manage unprocessed hair. And I'm like, Crystal, how long do I get I don't know what I'm doing.
Oh, goodness.
And a year later almost. Right?
A year later almost. And I still don't know what I'm doing with this unprocessed hair, which is why I'm good about getting those appointments on the books. So I'm still not good with that. But after the improvement, even before the 12 weeks, because I think we were midway, you had taken some pictures. And I was like astonished. Like, even though I was in the mirror at home, doing this, the actual pictures you can really see, right? And I was like, Crystal, I'm just so
happily surprised. But I was so surprised at, the amount of growth that I had in that short period of time. And then after the 12 weeks, not only had it filled in, we could grip where we couldn't grip before. So I enjoyed it. I was so excited, and coming in, we came in once a week. I was excited to come into my once a week appointment because I knew that there was going to be success and improvement just from each session, taking it week by week.
Very good.
Very good.
Thank you. So before we began, I was saying I didn't want this to be a pick me session. So if we could leave our viewers with one word or sentence to, when they watch this, help them make the next step for them, what would you say that should be?
I would say make sure that you're doing it for all the right reasons. Make sure that whoever or whatever you're looking for, that it's for you. Make sure that when you walk away from the process, that you walk away knowing that I did this for me.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Anyone else? Alexis?
I don't think I could sum it up into one sentence, but what I would tell somebody who's experiencing this, it's gonna be tough some days. Everybody's journey is really different. And I think one thing I learned with my alopecia is you really have to know you're beautiful with hair, without hair. You really have to have that self-confidence and look in the mirror and believe what you're saying. I am beautiful. Because it's gonna be tough some days. But with or without hair, I think that's key.
Very good. Anyone else?
You are not alone.
You are not alone.
When you're going through the journey, you think it is just you, but it is not just you. And find someone that is going to walk with you, right? And that is going to educate you and encourage you and just, keep you going.
Yes.
And do your research, right? Research, your doctors tell you something. Sometimes, to your point, Colleen, you may have to go to another doctor, get a second opinion, get a third opinion, finding a trichologist. If that's the path that you're going to go on, research, talk to a couple of people and make sure that you're comfortable with, that person and what they're telling you, and you understand what the plan is.
Correct.
I agree with everyone's input. Leaving the viewers your notes, and I just add to listen to your body. Listen to your body because and listen to your hair, because your hair is going to react to what is happening on the inside, and not just it'll grow back, but sometimes it won't, and maybe sending you a signal of something else is really, really wrong. So listen to your body. And find a crystal. Find a crystal.
So I just want to emphasize, I am so humbled to have all of you here at the table. I've been doing this for almost 10 years, and this was a real defining moment for me. Not just to highlight all the good that I've done, but I'm taking inventory to what could I have done to do better. How can I improve my business or my business model to serve the next group of CHS clients a little bit better down the line? But I want to thank you for your time and sharing your journey here with me and the viewers today. I hope that they find themselves a crystal in a city near them, because having a trichologist on their team is just as important as a functional health doctor or a holistic practitioner in their corner to help them connect the dots today. But thank you very much. I appreciate you being here. And I look forward to seeing y'all at your next appointment.
Thank you. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you. Yes.
We hope you enjoyed today's roundtable conversation on hair loss. If you would like to see more of this content, please click the link below to subscribe to our channel. We offer free 15-minute phone consultations to discuss your concerns on hair loss. Please visit our website at www.glamourstyles.com to book your free consultation today. We offer in-clinic and remote consultations. And don't forget to follow us on all platforms of social media, following Glamorous Styles Hair Studio or GS Hair Salon.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.